Forget the clean, uniform look you see in most WW2 footage. Burma didn't reward neatness. It rewarded whatever kept you conscious, uninfected, and unspotted in green darkness. Steel helmets turned into ovens. Sweat flooded eyes. Mosquitoes did what bullets sometimes didn't. Regulations wanted standard kit, worn the standard way. But a jungle patrol doesn't care what the manual says. It cares what works today. These are the 7 banned helmet hacks used by Wehrmacht troops in Burma, 1942 to 1945. Number 7. Tropical pith helmets. Adaptation to unbearable heat. Uniform regulations in the Wehrmacht prized recognizability and standard issue. In practice that meant the Stahlhelm for field wear, with alterations discouraged and non-standard headgear generally restricted to specific duties or officially issued tropical items. A helmet wasn't supposed to be a comfort choice. Burma made it one anyway. In the heat and humidity of long marches and river crossings, a steel shell trapped sweat and cooked your head. In documented photos from the Burma theater, German personnel attached to Japanese operations are sometimes seen in lighter tropical headgear, including pith-style helmets associated with colonial stocks and local purchase. It wasn't about style. It was about staying functional on patrol when dehydration and heat exhaustion could erase a unit faster than contact. The trade was brutal. A pith helmet shaded you and vented heat. It could also blend better under foliage than a bright rim-catching sun. But when fragments came off trees or a burst cut through bamboo, it offered almost nothing. Comfort sometimes kept a man moving. It also left him naked to shrapnel when the jungle finally lit up. Number 6. British Mk2 helmets. Using the enemy's gear. German doctrine generally treated uniform and equipment as identification tools as much as protection. Captured items could be used in emergencies, but wearing enemy kit in the open invited confusion, and rear area regulations discouraged it. The helmet, especially, was a silhouette people shot at. Burma blurred those rules. The British Mk2, Brodie, pattern was common in Commonwealth forces in the region, and capture was a fact of jungle fighting raids on dumps, stripped battlefields, abandoned positions after a retreat. For a German detachment working alongside Japanese units, AMK2 could feel like a practical swap. Different weight balance, a brim that shed rain, and a shape that sat flatter under branches on a long, wet patrol. Sometimes it paid off. A helmet that didn't slide into your eyes during the climb could mean a cleaner shot when contact happened fast. But it carried risk. A patrol seen in the wrong profile could be engaged at distance before anyone sorted out who was who. Even without friendly fire, it complicated recognition in a war where seconds decided whether you spoke or fired. Number 5. Improvised mosquito net veils. Risking vision for disease prevention. Field hygiene in the tropics was not an optional extra. German medical guidance emphasized mosquito avoidance repellents when available, proper clothing, netting at rest, and in a perfect world you followed orders on malaria prophylaxis too. Commanders also expected combat readiness, clear vision, unobstructed hearing, quick target acquisition. Burma forced a choice. Mosquitoes were constant, and malaria could hollow out a unit without a shot fired. So men improvised. Fine netting scavenged from local sources, trade stocks, or whatever could be cut down was tied to helmet rims or helmet bands to hang over the face and neck. It wasn't elegant. It was an attempt to make a patrol survivable when sleep was short and bites were everywhere. Sometimes it worked exactly as intended. Fewer bites meant fewer fevers, and fewer fevers meant more rifles present on the line next week. But in a sudden fight, the veil could snag on brush, blur a front sight, or turn a fast glance into a fumble. Disease prevention bought endurance. It could also steal reaction time when endurance didn't matter because the shooting had started. If you were leading that patrol, would you order the netting on, knowing it might cost you seconds in an ambush? Before we move on, what would you optimize for in Burma, heat, identification, or disease prevention? Pick one, and tell us why in the comments. And if you want WW2 history without the movie version, subscribe because the next hacks get even more personal and more dangerous. Number 4. Leaf and cloth camouflage covers. You hide the shine, you trap the heat. Officially, a helmet was a piece of standardized equipment, not a craft project. Paint schemes and insignia were regulated, and anything that altered the profile could interfere with straps, hearing, or fast recognition. Camouflage, when it existed, was supposed to be issued, consistent, and controllable. In Burmese jungle light, the problem wasn't just color. It was shine and outline. A Stahlhelm can flash through foliage like a signal mirror. So men broke the silhouette. Strips of cloth, burlap, bandage gauze, even cut rice sacks got tied under the helmet band. Leaves and bits of fern were tucked in and replaced constantly as they wilted. Some improvised a full cover fabric pulled tight and knotted so the rim didn't catch highlights. It helped. A dull, irregular shape bought you distance, and distance bought you time when contact was sudden and close. But it also backfired. Wet cloth stayed wet. Rot set in. Covers snagged on bamboo and vines, yanking helmets sideways right when you needed to see. Camouflage could keep you unseen. It could also make you slower, louder, and more miserable on the long walk to the fight. Number 3. Field-drilled ventilation holes. Comfort that compromises steel. A combat helmet is engineered as a system. Shell strength, rim stiffness, and liner spacing. You weren't supposed to punch new holes in it. Factories placed vents and rivets where stress wouldn't concentrate, and field modifications that weakened the steel were treated as damage, not improvement. Burma made that logic feel abstract. Heat rash, headaches, sweat pouring into your eyes, those were immediate. Some men tried to fix the oven. Small holes were drilled or punched high on the shell, sometimes in pairs, sometimes a rain. The goal was crude but real: airflow while moving, and somewhere for trapped sweat to evaporate instead of pooling under the liner. On a quiet march, it could feel like a victory. Less dizziness, fewer stops, better attention, but steel doesn't forgive stress risers. A hole can turn a glancing strike into a crack line. In rain, vents also invite water straight into the helmet, soaking the liner until it slumps and shifts. The hack bought comfort. It also bought structural weakness at the exact moment protection stops being theoretical. Number 2. Towel and liner padding. Soft fixes for hard impacts. The helmet liner was meant to do two jobs: space the shell off the skull, and hold it steady with a chin strap. Regulations expected the liner to stay intact and correctly fitted. Extra padding sounds harmless until it changes how the helmet sits, how it shifts, and whether it stays on. In the jungle, comfort wasn't luxury. It was performance. Men folded towels, wrapped strips of cloth, or shoved spare bandages between liner and headband to stop hot spots and reduce sweat running into the eyes. Some used padding to tighten a loose liner when parts wore out, or to keep the rim from knocking against branches during crawls. It's the kind of change you make after one miserable day and never undo. Sometimes it worked perfectly. A helmet that doesn't wobble means less noise, fewer distractions, and better balance on steep ground. But extra cloth also holds moisture against skin. Fungal infections love that, and in a blast or fall, improvised padding can shift, letting the shell rotate and exposing the temple or back of the head. Comfort kept you focused. It could also rearrange the protection you thought you had. Number 1. Locally bought sun hats. Survival gear that looks like disobedience. A soldier's headgear wasn't just personal preference. It was uniform discipline, recognition, and an assumption of protection. In theory, you wore what you were issued, when you were told, and you didn't replace a steel helmet with something civilian looking just because it felt better. But long stretches of Burma weren't a firing range. They were heat, rot, and movement. Locally purchased hats, broad brim felt, woven straw, cloth caps solved problems the Stahlhelm couldn't. They shaded the face. They shed rain away from the neck. They weighed almost nothing when you were already carrying ammunition, water, and whatever food existed that day. In villages and along supply routes, buying or trading for a hat was simpler than waiting for official tropical kit that might never arrive. It could pay off in endurance. Fewer heat casualties. Better visibility without sweat stinging the eyes. And yet it also stripped away what the helmet was for. When fragments cut leaves overhead, a hat was decoration. In an encounter at distance, it also erased the one silhouette everyone recognized, inviting hesitation from allies and attention from enemies. The hat kept you moving. It also made you easier to hurt. All of these hacks sit in the same gap. The one between equipment designed for a doctrine and equipment used in a place that punishes doctrine. In Burma, correct wasn't a moral category. It was a negotiation with heat, insects, visibility, and minutes of warning. If you want World War II history without simplification or mythology, subscribe. Brass and Blitz stays with the lived details, how people bent rules, paid for it, and sometimes survived because they did.